Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Clint Underwood will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we have a quorum. Any conflicts of interest?
Nope.
Okay. Approval of minutes from March 4th, 2026. Do we have a motion or any amendments?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for March 4th,
Second?
26. Yeah.
A motion by Andy, a second by Forrest. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 4.1, review and consider approval of a conditional use permit for Nickelmania.
Hi, good evening. So I will be presenting the conditional use for the Nickelmania site plan. Okay, so this is just a vicinity map locating it within the city of Harriman, kind of on our southeast side, just off of the corridor. Here's a zoomed-in vicinity map, just providing some context to the area in the C2 zone off of Academy Parkway. The parcel or the subparcel that's proposed here this evening does reach 2.37 acres, and it's outlined in red here, and it is within the C2 zone. So as part of the Harriman Business Park, Lot 3 is here this evening. It's proposed as Nickelmania. It is part of that 5.4 total acres previously approved here at the Planning Commission as a part of that business park application. On the slide here is an updated proposed site plan. It does differ a little bit from what was in your packets, only slightly, largely just that the building has shifted 2 feet to the west, so it has bumped that to 17 feet from that west boundary. It does meet all of the setback requirements, including the 20 feet from both the north and east sides of the building to both Maradona Drive and West Academy Parkway. The structure itself meets the square footage limitations. You will see quite a few additional parking stalls provided on the site plan. Those were included with the hopes for additional expansion in the future, and they were working on designing the site to accommodate that hopeful expansion sooner rather than later. The only changes from your packet, and then also included is the proposed landscape plan. We have included the color rendering here, and it does meet 20% of the site requirement at 10% only, so it has twice what's required. They've provided all the street and site trees that are required per ordinance. The only additional modification will be a condition of approval to add 1 additional parking lot island kind of on that south side of the parking lot to meet an ordinance requirement of 10 spaces before requiring another island break. And that's located right approximately here to make that break. On this next slide here are the proposed building elevations. So the building height itself at the base of the building, the top line of actual construction is going to be at 21 feet 4 inches. The parapets do go up to 26 feet and 11 inches, so you have about 5 feet 7. They do fall well under the 45-foot limitation for the C2 zone. They have provided both brick and stucco finished materials proposed, and then those percentages do vary based on the facades. So the north has proposed 64% of the primary brick, and there is a sample up there kind of in the middle of the slide for you all. And then there's a 36% stucco proposed there, 65% brick on that east, and 35% stucco also proposed. The reason that we highlight that difference is just a potential condition of approval to reduce that stucco down to the 20% allowed per ordinance. Both the south and west facades, though, do provide full 100% primary brick and do meet the requirement for the C2 development standards. So the staff findings kind of summed up here. Just again, reiterating that that stucco is exceeding that maximum 20% allowance. This is a permitted use within the C2 zone. It is considered recreation and entertainment, and it's indoor. The C2 development, anything over that 1 acre, the 44,000 square feet, does require your approval for the site plan. And then just to reiterate, you will see quite a few additional parking stalls that have been proposed beyond those 56 required, largely just again to deal with that expansion. And the site design itself, because it is part of the Harriman Business Park, which was approved with over 5 acres, it does fall into some additional requirements within that commercial and office zone for those design standards. So staff's recommendation is to approve with a few conditions, one being just to address all recommendations and requirements from other agencies, including our engineering department, that the exterior elevations continue to maintain that 60% of brick and stone, but do decrease to that 20% allowance for the stucco. Then to provide elevations for the trash enclosure, just to ensure that it material-wise meets city ordinance, because we haven't seen anything proposed for that quite yet. And then obviously to make sure that signs are not included as a part of this approval process, and as well for any approval conditions that came with the Harriman Business Park be worked through with staff to ensure that an agreement is met over the entire subdivision and that it does comply with those ordinance requirements for that 5 acre total overage on the Harriman Business Park.
I have a question. If you want to go back to one of the site plans that I can see. That'll work. Yeah, that even better, even better. It's not covered up by. So the sidewalk that goes in front of the building and it continues along the parking lot, is there a way to get that to connect to Academy Parkway? Is
So-
it just a grade difference there? Because I can see a lot of kids wanting to cut through there and track
There
through
is-
the landscaping. But
There is a grade difference.
That's what I
On that
figured.
east side, right almost essentially where that thick
Yeah.
dash line is indicating the property line, there's actually an existing retaining wall.
Oh,
that
never
has a
mind then.
fence.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about a 5-foot metal fence sitting on the top of that retaining
then
wall
I guess
as
you
well.
won't be getting people cutting through, so never mind.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Thank you
Yeah,
for that
of course.
clarification.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Does the applicant have anything they want to add?
No
Or
applicant
they're
here?
not here? Not here, probably.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, discussion or motion?
Can you advance it to the
Oh, go back to the
comment?
recommendations.
Just go to the recommendation. There we go. I think this makes sense, so I move to approve item 4.1 with staff's 5 recommendations.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Adam, a second by Andy. Forrest?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
And Andy?
Yes.
Okay. Procedure for a public hearing. The purpose of the public comment policy is to allow citizens to address items on the agenda. Citizens requesting to address the commission will be asked to complete a written comment form and present it to the deputy city recorder. In general, the chair will allow an individual 3 minutes, and a spokesperson for a group may be allowed up to 5 minutes. This policy applies to all public hearings. So item 5.1, consideration of a request to amend the general plan future land use map from C2 to mixed use.
Hello, as stated in the work meeting, I will be doing one presentation for item 1.5 or 5.1 and also 5.2, as they are on the same property. So this is our subject area. We are down close to Redemption is typically the marker used off of Academy. This is a conceptual plan for the site. Right now, we're looking at 149 dwelling units and then 2 commercial pads and potentially 1 hotel. As far as the general plan amendment goes, it is currently marked as general retail, and the ask is to change it to mixed neighborhood 2. These are the different considerations that we look at, and it was determined in our staff report that it avoided incompatibility. However, it did not meet the rest of these standards. Oh, it pops up afterwards. Look at that. Okay. So looking at the zoning map amendment, this is contingent, as you know, on the general plan amendment passing. So we're looking at going from commercial to mixed use 2, slightly different language because it's our zoning versus our general plan, but essentially the same idea. So looking at the zoning amendment considerations, it was determined that it is harmonious with existing characteristics of the area around it, as far as there is housing to the north and then, well, I guess east, and then commercial to the south. So while this is a conceptual plan, we did just want to call out that there currently are 42 too many residential dwellings. They are sitting at 13.8% for their density right now, and they are only allowed to have 10 units per acre as a horizontal mixed use area. So it looks like we have a little bit, okay, I don't know why that portion came up next, but perfect. So these are our 2 different recommendations. Each will need their own public hearing. However, we are recommending denial based on the fact that only one of the 5 requirements was met for the general plan amendment, and then subsequently, if the general plan amendment does not go through, the zoning map cannot. Any questions for me? Stunning. I will go sit down.
Thank you. All right, do we want to hear from the applicant first, and then we'll open the public hearing, so if the applicant has something they want to add?
Good evening, Chair and Commission. Pleasure to be here with you this evening. It's good to see familiar faces and new faces on Commission. I think the last time I stood here was many years ago when we did the Mountain Ridge development. They're off of 134th and Mountain View.
Do you mind stating your name?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Brandon Watson, Edge Homes.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. But anyway, it's good to see familiar faces, so I appreciate your time. I just want to, I guess, point out a few items on this, on what our proposal is here tonight. So my comments that I'm going to make here are related to both items, both the general plan amendment as well as the zoning map amendment. I know they're 2 separate items, but to not be redundant, I'm just going to address them all at once. So, but first, I just want to, I guess, address what this proposal is not. This proposal is not an elimination of the commercial use that's already designated on this property. We fully intend to retain commercial development as part of the project. What we're proposing is a little bit more of a thoughtful and strategic strategy to what we can put on this particular piece of property, and maybe uses that better reflect the realities of the property. So this site, if you've had a chance to drive out there, is unique in the sense that it's very steep. To give you a little bit of context, from Mountain View corridor to, I'm going to call it the northeast corner of the property, it's about 60 feet of vertical fall. So it's very steep. And perhaps when the general plan amendment was put in place in 2022, I believe is what the staff report said, it may have been looked at with a little different perspective as to kind of one-dimensionally what looks good and what would be appropriate for this area. But if you can with me tonight, I guess put on your 3D glasses and we can look at this property from a three-dimensional standpoint to really see what's viable and what's usable on this property. So when you do evaluate the property three-dimensionally, traditional commercial development across the entire site really presents a lot of challenges. I'm a civil engineer, so I'm going to try not to get into the weeds as far as technicalities of it, but I'm just putting on my engineering glasses when I look at this. Generally commercial uses, they require large flat pads for the commercial pad itself, pretty extensive parking lots, and they also need efficient access. So trying to impose that on steep terrain leads to excessive grading, large retaining walls, increased costs, and ultimately a less attractive and potentially a less functional use. In many cases, that kind of mismatch between zoning and physical conditions might result in portions of the property remaining undeveloped, or hopefully not, but it may result in the whole property remaining vacant in perpetuity just because the costs are too extensive to develop as a commercial property. So we want to develop this in a way that I guess we don't want to develop this in a way that falls short of both the city's expectations as well as what market needs are. Our proposal is intended to solve this problem. We're not reducing the commercial opportunity, we are strengthening it. By concentrating the commercial in the lower, flatter areas, we do open up the opportunity for residential to go into a little bit of the steeper areas. And there are, by doing so, it does allow the businesses in those lower areas to function more efficiently, where customers can access them easily, where development can occur with unnecessary site impacts. At the same time, we are trying to introduce residential uses into those steeper portions. That we have a much smaller footprint with residential uses. They're a lot more flexible in their design. We can create walkout units or garden level units to be able to step down and kind of terrace with the elevations and with the grade rather than working against it. And that's ultimately what our goal is here with this site on the residential component of it. Obviously by mixing residential and commercial together in sort of in a mixed use environment, it does allow for that commercial to thrive, and that's what we ultimately want. The unique part about this is you do have an end user in Edge Homes as the residential developer on this, as well as we're partnering up with a commercial developer who has commercial users that are looking at this, and discussions are happening to be able to put commercial pads where it makes sense from a topographical standpoint. I guess in conclusion, I just simply want to say we're not eliminating the commercial component of it. We still want to keep it. We still want that to be viable, and it makes sense to us to put residential in the steeper areas, and it's within a walkable area to support this commercial and to make it a long-term viable project that the city can be proud of, as well as, the existing businesses that are around there. The item just before me, Nickelmania, I'm sure that they would appreciate having a lot of children and youth in the area that will want to go down there on a Friday night or a weeknight and go play arcade games, etc. And I know there's a lot of residential around here in this area, but being able to introduce some additional commercial and some additional residential in this area, I think will help support the commercial that's there. So anyway, that's my spiel in a nutshell. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and hope that you guys would consider this from a three-dimensional standpoint.
I'll start with one. Are there any, other than proximity, and what features make it mixed use?
So if I could go to the map, that kind of our conceptual plan. I don't know who's driving the screen there, but if I could go and see. Yeah, just, that one's fine. So the green area where we intend to have commercial pads. Right now, there's discussions with hotel users and other retail commercial developers to be able to put their site in the green area. Edge Homes would just be taking the red portion of that to where, you know, we could have some cross connectivity. There is a large roadway right now that's being built with Nickelmania that we intend to bring through the site. That's really the only access off of, you know, obviously you can't get access off of Mountain View Corridor or the name slips me on the road to the south. But anyway, there's really only two ways in or out from this property. And so, you know, we do intend to have this as a mixed use in that sense, that we'll put commercial where it makes sense and residential.
And part of the reason I say proximity is it looks like between the red and the green, you could put a giant concrete wall and call it good. So I don't see any mixing, or there doesn't seem to be any sort of master group other than we get this, they get that, and here's some pads for sale.
Sure.
So I guess that's kind of what I'm seeing at the moment.
Yeah, and obviously depending on the uses that go there, it would, for example, if it was a Nickelmania, it would make sense to not barricade that off and to have that cross connectivity, and we're most certainly open to that. I don't think that's a detriment to our project or to the commercial to have that cross connectivity.
Brandon, I'm going to reserve my comments for a little bit. I want to have the public hearing first.
Sure.
I do have a question. On your site plan, the grade lines that are underneath, are those existing or proposed?
Those are existing contours underneath there, yeah.
Okay.
And that 60 feet in vertical elevation that I'm referring to is essentially where the M is on Mountain View Corridor, the label there, to that northeast corner where the red and the green meet together. That's 60 feet of vertical elevation there. It's 80 feet down to the intersection of Academy Parkway and 150th South. So even the Nickelmania, as you can tell, there's some site challenges with that one. You know, Andy, you had asked the question about connectivity that way. There is an existing about a 15-foot tall retaining wall along Academy Parkway where we're showing the commercial, the hotel part of it. There's already an existing retaining wall that's 15 feet tall right there, just to give you a little bit of idea of just how steep the site is.
Okay, do we have anything else, or should we open the public hearing?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second.
Do you want me to read in the comment that we had at the work session, or is that good enough from what we did?
Okay, so we do have an email that came in, and that will just be part of the record. And, yeah, so come forward and state your name. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me stand in front of this august body. My name is Clint Underwood, Harriman resident. I see so much wrong with what's being proposed. I appreciate Edge Homes' need to maximize the value. I've been in business myself, but as a Harriman resident, and I believe you're all Harriman residents, you just have to drive down Mountain View to see what a mess housing looks like, particularly on the east side. It kind of looks like the Army barracks that some of us may have stayed in at some point. We don't need houses there. It's not, you know, we don't need to maximize every square inch of land. Some town fathers, probably before all of us were in council, put this zoning in place for a reason. And that reason is something that they saw, and I hope that you see. Putting houses in there degrades the value of the community. Mountain View Corridor is going to be a high-speed expressway sometime soon. You know, there's no quality of life there. I'm against it. It's going to increase, you're going to need increased police presence, you're going to need increased schools, increased fire, all to support Edge Homes' maximization of their profits. There's a whole list of other things. I had not seen the blueprints or the schematics before this meeting. I don't know where I would have been able to see them, but it's kind of alarming that they've got all that housing backed up to Mountain View. I'm distressed. I wouldn't want to live there. I don't know who would want to live there. As you drive down the road, you can look in the windows of the houses, and they have no view out the back of their houses. So let the property remain for what it's for some type of commercial development, which is what should be along Mountain View, not housing. Can see evidence of what that creates even now with the housing that's in place now. So, again, I didn't see that. I didn't have any prepared remarks, but I hope that you consider my statements and you know, work the plan and plan the work. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and seeing no one else, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Adam, a second by Forrest. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, further discussion or motion?
So Brandon, why not just not count on 42 units, if I understand it? Because what this might be for staff. The way I'm interpreting the note that I saw that said it's 42 over, why not develop a mixed use that actually decreases the units but still achieves both? So I think it was like 149, right? So 149 minus 42 is 107. Why aren't we talking about 107? Because isn't this part of the overall master plan PUD development for that whole area?
So I'm not aware of the PUD. It could very well potentially be. I think tonight was the first I'd heard we were over by 42 units, just because I didn't know what we were comparing that to, I suppose. But I think in the MU2, the mixed-use 2 neighborhood, I thought there was a large window, I suppose, of density that could go in there. And so I wasn't aware we were over by 42 units, I'll be honest. So.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, yeah, it has to do with dwelling units per acre. And because of the acreage, it's 10 dwelling units per acre, not 13.8. So that's how you get your 47 over. It's because any horizontal MU2 residential is capped at 10.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
And then my other question was going to be, when you and I met a long time ago, you developed these mixed-use development that you really upgraded a heck of a lot to, if I remember right, there was Brandon haircut back in the days when we were trying to lay out the similar type units to do actual MU before MU existed. Can we tell us why we're just doing the standard product?
Here on this one in particular?
Yeah.
So one of the bigger challenges with commercial use, and I know I'm preaching to the choir on this, but just want to put this out there. ADA accessibility is extremely difficult on steep sites. So doing a mixed-use component like what we had done here in Harriman Town Center, this one was a much easier use for us because it made sense, right? You've got an already existing commercial, I'm going to call that, with the ice skating rink and everything that you guys do, which is fabulous for the community as a whole. And it makes sense to put that in an area where there is a lot of traffic, there is a lot of attraction that would come to this. Here on this one in particular, this is one that we're just feeling like, from a mixed-use standpoint, let's put the commercial down where it makes sense. From an accessibility standpoint, let's put the residential where it is. They're within a stone's throw of each other, so from a mixed-use standpoint, I just feel like we can make this work from a connectivity standpoint and let the residents be the residents and the commercial be the commercial. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's our mindset here behind that.
That makes sense.
So maybe this is a question for staff too, but the green area there, that's not prohibited under the current use, right? I mean, they could come in and these 3 parcels, that could just come in as is with the current zoning and general plan
Yep.
situation, right? So really, they could come
They're
back.
commercial uses in a commercial zone
Yeah,
currently.
right, so
Yep.
that could happen still. Now, granted, maybe they're relying on the residential, whatever, but we don't have to change the whole zone to mixed use either, right? It would be, and maybe that's what I'm,
So what I'm hearing you say is if you took the 10.81 and you subtracted off the 1.97 acre hotel and the 1.33 acre and the 1.22 acre, and then you use the appropriate M2 zone for just the red, I don't know what that magic number of density per unit would be, but that'd probably even be less than 42. Is that the number you did to calculate the 42 delta?
was just the red area? Or the,
Or did you use the total acreage?
So it's just for the residential area. It's specified in our code. Yeah, you have to
your
use just that
calculations was
acreage.
just based on the red
The
area?
red.
Just the
yes,
red.
That's correct.
And that's again if MU2 was, it was
MU2.
changed to MU2.
And that's where I'm struggling, is that I'm not seeing like I see the grade, civil engineer as well. I see the benefit of stacking, but I don't see the benefit to the community of why we wouldn't stick with the current commercial. Now, if there was a product that was showing that enhancement, similar to what you did around here before, that's where I personally would be a little more comfortable with at least the idea of it. But at this stage, I don't really see that there's a benefit myself. To
I would
go
agree.
against the commercial.
I would concur.
And I do know it is difficult on a hill. It's been hard with the commercial just up the street. They've had to do a lot of stepping there by Lee's.
Yeah.
Get theirs to work.
Yeah, Lee's Market, you look at that, I mean, they're, I don't know how much lower they are than Mountain View Corridor, but the amount of earthwork there, I mean, that's one other thing that, you know, we struggle with on massive earthwork projects is where do you, all that material is gonna be loaded up into dump trucks, driven on city roads to some other dump site that's gonna need it, that might be in the lowlands somewhere. So there's also, you know, an economic value to the city on that, to how can we reduce the impact, not only environmentally, but also to the infrastructure that you guys own, is a significant item to consider. You know, Lee's has a lot of retaining walls. I'm not saying that this site could never work as a commercial development. I don't want anybody to think that, you know, this is the only use for it, right? But what I am saying is that, you know, I think fiscally, to be responsible on something like this, to really reduce the amount of earthwork, the amount of environmental impact we have on this site, I really do feel like residential is a use that is a lot more compatible with steeper sites than commercial pads. And again, commercial, the only way to get into this is off of Maradona Drive. Yeah, you've got the visibility from Mountain View Corridor, but you have no access off Mountain View Corridor, no access off of Academy Parkway. So you're driving through a residential neighborhood on the north on 150th South and Maradona Drive. Those are your 2 points of access for 15 acres of commercial.
Hey, Lauren, is this tied to the master development agreement density? Because. Really? It was
So
excluded from the South Hills and everything?
it's not part of it. Also, as a statement to your earlier question, if the density was changed to R210, for example, or even R215, those unit maximums are 8 per acre or 5.8, so they would actually be over by an increased amount if they were not doing mixed use.
So we have, this is more of a staff kind of question. We have very little commercial land in our city. Can we swap commercial land for somewhere else in the city?
Proposing that the applicant might identify somewhere else where we could,
If we could get some commercial from somewhere else, then this could then become residential?
They've kind of done that before with units from one part of the city to the other before.
increases the complexity, of course, and
Oh, okay.
Still sounds like a cool idea.
Well, I really hate to lose commercial.
No, I agree that losing the commercial, and again, that's where I'm struggling, is losing the commercial with no true offset, like, because it all was commercial. That's where I'm struggling myself. So if there was a way to truly show like mixed-use businesses underneath or something to at least show that you're still having the commercial.
So much residential coming in this area that it's gonna need business support for
Yeah.
that. They need those spaces to take care of them. This would be that space that would do it.
Almost like haircut places in the basement of a condo or something like that.
It's not my haircut place, so I know it's me and Brandon's haircut place. It's not mine.
You remember that presentation, though.
The good thing here is you have two users that are ready to break ground on the site today, right? You have a commercial developer that's ready and having open conversations right now with commercial users for these, the pads in the green. You've got Edge Homes here. Obviously, I'm asking for a rezone and a general plan amendment on a site. We're ready, to move forward on a project like this. I do fear as we say, okay, if this remains all of commercial, it's a very challenging site. I will say that. And so that's just something to consider, that this could potentially remain an undeveloped or a partially developed piece of property for many years to come.
So going off of a point that,
Can you say that again? Sorry.
going off of a point that Jackson and Adam both brought up as far as connectivity, it is also important that it be stated that between the commercial and residential, there would still be required that 6-foot masonry fence because they are incompatible uses next to each other, even within this zone. So creating connectivity like you're asking for is also going to be more difficult by just established rules that we do already have.
So we'd need some sort of development agreement that shows how it all works together as an interactive community, and it's truly mixing uses together, and they support each other and work with each other. But
Yeah, if it's something important to the commission and our council to see that interconnectivity, we may need to see something that goes outside the bounds of our current ordinances.
And that's where, so me personally, I can understand, like, from whatever the road where Maradona bends to the north, from there, that little triangle, I could see from that roadway to the left, I could see why maybe commercial doesn't make sense in that little teeny corner, myself.
I could see it even on a slope piece of land. You can put a nice hotel over there.
Very true.
You can work with it to put a hotel.
Yeah, when you're working with the grade instead of against it, like right now, these ones here are perpendicular to grade, and so that makes it a lot more difficult. But if you're parallel with the grade, it's a lot easier to make those areas work.
Basically,
Get a
instead of
Put a
calling
branded
it,
hotel in there pretty easy.
Yeah, and I'm trying to deduce the contours on this. They're difficult to see, but how about the area west of that 1.22 acre commercial that's outlined by Maradona? To me, that doesn't look any steeper than the commercial areas, the contours.
most of the drop is right off of Mountain View, from what I've seen, correct?
So it depends. So where the label Mountain View corridor is, from there, it's a real steep drop off.
And it's still pretty steep, but not
Yep.
crazy steep, right?
And then, then it slopes down. So where that hotel's proposed, it's still, there's about 20 feet of fall even across the hotel site there. So there's gonna be some pretty massive retaining walls, or they're gonna have to get real creative on how they park that. Where we're proposing along Mountain View corridor, we have our townhomes that we can, essentially they're drive under, so you build those more into the hillside. Across the street, we have condominiums, like what we had done for those that have been on the Planning Commission for a while, Saddlebrook, that's a blast from the past, but we've done garden level units, which adds a basement element to our condominiums, so you can step down and make grade up there. To Commissioner Sickles' point, you'll notice that in the residential, we've strategically placed our roads and our units going parallel with the contours so that we can make up those grades and really step that down. If those were commercial pads, you'd essentially have to do what Lee's did, which is cut down. I mean, I would guess it's probably 30 feet lower than Mountain View Corridor, maybe 25 feet lower than Mountain View Corridor, plus a retaining wall. That's what you would see from Mountain View Corridor to do some sort of a larger commercial use, like a Lee's or something.
So again, west of that 1.22 acre commercial site, within the outlined by Maradona, that area doesn't look any steeper than your commercial properties. If you're 42 over, if you made that commercial, you'd at least make up some ground, not all of it. But.
Well, then that'd change the percentage though, because now your acreage is changing too.
And that's why, for me, without seeing a true transition, to me, this is just abrupt commercial and townhomes. And so without seeing, if I would have actually saw maybe, like, that's what I'm trying to say, between the green and the road to the north, an actual different style of product. I get you guys really build those, you've been doing them for a while, but some type of different product that brings commercial with the residential to try and still keep the commercial at a higher level, more of the office type commercials, but transitioning it with some type of homes on top of that or below it. I would think that would actually be a little more common sense, but without that, I really just see we might as well slap on a residential zone and keep the commercial, and so I don't really see the advantage of the mixed use.
I don't see a mixed use here.
Yeah.
Commissioners, if I may, if there was any appetite for further consideration of the mixed-use zone. I know you just said, some of you said that you were not inclined to support that. Just for the applicant's consideration, again, because of the horizontal proposal, right, that's impacting the number of units that the city is, that you can do. Also, there will, if it were zone mixed use too, there's a requirement that you would have to develop a full master plan for the whole site, and that you would have to begin construction of the commercial section. It says prior to 25% of the residential units being completed. So this wouldn't be a development structure where Edge could build through all the residential units and then leave the pads for somebody else at some point in time in the future. You'd have to have a development plan that would commence construction of the, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
No, that's great. And I guess that sometimes showing a concept plan at a general plan amendment or a rezone stage sometimes is to my detriment, and I can fault myself for that. If we go mixed use on the entire thing, this does give me the flexibility and the ability to do exactly what you're asking, which is let's move stuff around, let's make this make sense. I'm trying to put the commercial next to commercial. That's really the only reason why we've drawn it this way. But there's more than one way to skin a cat. If we want to put mixed use on the entire thing, and maybe it does make sense to push the commercial to the north or push the commercial east, west, south, whichever direction, we do have that ability. Rather than having such a stark line like what I've drawn here. Again, this was just me putting on my planner hat here and just saying, okay, commercial to the east with the Nickelmania and the two other pads, let's buffer that with a little similar or lesser commercial use to residential that has residential to the north. So if we want to get creative and Yahtzee this up, let's do it, and we can mix and mingle as needed. I'm just trying to put commercial where it would make sense.
Another thought for consideration is we do require a minimum of 15 acres for a PUD. This is large enough to have a PUD overlay, but that's another zoning application, right? So, I mean, there are some tools that could be further explored. Again, if the commission is interested in recommending or exploring this, right? Obviously, our recommendation was denial based on the previous direction from the city saying like, we want to maintain commercial. But if the commission is interested in exploring an alternative, there are some other options that I think that the applicant, I would assume you would be willing to explore prior to making a recommendation here tonight.
Sure.
So I can say my opinion. I'm okay with a little bit of residential, but still a healthy amount of commercial. I understand you can't always fit 100% commercial everywhere. And so I'm comfortable with letting you go back to the drawing board, but still not moving forward till we get a little better plan. That's my opinion.
I would like to see a different plan too. Now, is that something the developer can work with staff on?
Yes. Yeah, but again, you would probably, one of your alternatives, of course, tonight is to table the item or continue the item pending we do some additional research and come back with more information.
Yeah, as presented right now, I'd hate to put it to a vote for this guy. I'd rather table it. Have him work with staff.
My opinion is that if they want to come back with a better plan and a better layout, we don't need to table it. I think we all understand that city council is going to want to maintain commercial. And so this does not. And so we can only vote on what we see. And I'd rather not table it and just have them come with a different approach.
But they could also, I hear you completely, but they also can do the same thing inside of council. So me personally, I would rather know what I'm recommending. And to me, just to deny for denial's sake doesn't help.
Well, it's not
with the
denying
intent.
for denial's sake. I mean, we have reasons to deny it because it doesn't match, all the requirements that city has come up with, so.
Well, ultimately, this is recommendation from us, right, Mike?
Right.
Correct.
It's a
Recommendation to council, if the council were also to, or if the council, once the council makes a decision, and let's say it was denial, we would not be able to entertain a similar request for, I think it's like a year. You'd have to make a different application, right, in order to kind of re-explore other alternatives, so.
So with that, is it the better direction for the developer's sake to table it and let them work?
I think it depends if you want to explore an alternative
I don't mind
versus
it.
like you think that it's the best interest of the city to maintain commercial.
So
Yeah.
I think that because of the topography, perhaps some residential is needed to make the land work. But as it's presented to me right now, it's just too stark of a us and them type approach, and it doesn't fit a mixed use.
for me, I'm all for commercial that actually works and gets us commercial units the fastest as possible. And honestly, with what you said about mixed use, does make it so that in theory, the commercial would be built sooner than us calling it commercial for the rest of its days. So that's why I am comfortable waiting, but I want to be clear, I am looking at much more drastic number reduction and more spreading of true mixed-use style is what I would be
Include, like,
expecting.
First floor commercial?
Yeah, first floor commercial, like truly what you're envisioning with mixed-use type.
Yeah, a vertical mixed use.
Yeah, a vertical mixed use. So I could see kind of like, if I was just spitballing, the green staying how it is, somewhere in the middle of that triangle, a true commercial on the bottom, housing on the top, and then maybe to fill in the gaps, because literally it's really hard to get and it's an odd shape, maybe the style product that you're talking about. But that's a very small percentage of what I would be
I
seeing.
think I'd go with that, commercial along 150. I like the idea of the vertical, so.
Well, and if you had, the basements, you're talking walkout basements, and I can't design it for you. That's up to you. But, you can have entry on the lower level and then you have entry above for residential. Maybe there's something like that. But That's up to you.
Yeah, and a good prototype for that is actually like the Green in Orem, where they actually have commercial on the lower level and then residential above, and you enter in.
The Green?
Yeah, the
Is the
Green.
name of it?
Well, and we recently, if I remember right, not too far from here, we had that development that was more like flex style businesses.
Storage.
Yeah, the storage center on steroids. And that's where I could see this being a potential, start your business here, like create synergy that way before you go big, and that way it would kind of be that way. But Brandon, I'm just trying to give you a lot less residential is what I'm expecting. Okay. So,
And
so
adjacent-
if we do continue it, I would want you to understand that it's not going to be close to this
Well,
fraction.
and I think that's the point of, the reason why I think that we need to kind of go the denial route is because I don't think that the vertical mixed use is Edge's. That's not their model. That's not what they do.
But it's the
is.
land. We don't have to
Right,
worry
it's the
about
land-
their.
It's the land, but are we trying to push them into doing something that they don't do?
I'm not ready to deny it yet, mostly on the basis of what he just said. If we deny it, he's got another year or something. Let's give him a chance to come back to us, and then if we don't like it, then we deny it at that point.
And I'm more of a, we put in mixed use into our tools.
Right.
We should start to use it.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that we have a lot of commercial that we don't use. And I would much rather see it at least be 75% commercial for this whole area
Right.
than a commercial that never
This as
develops.
it's planned is not the ideal for mixed use.
Correct. And that's what I'm trying to say. If we, because we're ignoring his plan, that's what we have to do.
Right.
But we have to be enough to understand why he wants to go mixed use. And the question I'm hearing is he does want to go mixed use, no matter what his company does. And that, based off this plan, this isn't mixed use. So we need to hear more of what he means by mixed use before we say flat out denial. That's why, to me, a
And how that
continuation makes
benefits the
sense.
city and all the future residents.
Correct. And that's why a continuation would make sense to actually, because right now, we're reacting to your plan that you're just trying to spitball, but we need, in order to go to mixed use, we have to go a little bit farther than normal.
Yep.
And if you're willing to entertain that, then I'm willing personally to say, we need to give you time to work with staff to come up with a reasonable approach to do that.
And mixed use is
Commissioners-
probably the best use for this
Yeah.
piece as well, but not at what's being shown.
And if I may, and I apologize for not making this clear earlier. We and Brandon, you mentioned it earlier. This is not your first rodeo. You know kind of how this works, and you mentioned that you were using this illustration as a concept. We know that, again, that's all it is, right? It's just a concept. Really, the question is the general plan amendment and the zoning amendment, kind of high-level land use planning, is that the right or better course for the city? The reason why I was interested, potentially, if the commission was feeling like you were interested in exploring this conversation further of introducing residential, potentially, uses on this property, we do have the opportunity of recommending zoning conditions to the city council in a motion. And I think that's where we would probably need to have a little more conversation with the applicant to inform you, like, what those zoning conditions might be. I'd hate to, try to draft something on the fly.
Agreed.
Right. That's the only reason why I think that might be worth spending a little bit of time on. Because again, we're not approving a site plan. All of that would come later if this were amended, right? But again, if the commission, a majority of the commission is interested in just maintaining commercial zoning, then obviously that's not necessary. But if you do want to potentially explore either this mixed-use zone, then it sounds like the applicant would be willing to do a little more work and help you look at some options to explore some zoning conditions as a recommendation to the city council.
I would, myself, mixed use is probably correct, but I agree with some conditions, not just straight out the way we have our mixed use set now.
Correct. And I would say we've had better commercial that the specific developer tried to work with us on, and we basically tried to draw too many strings on that, and it made it so it became a school. So I would rather make us have some time to actually see what it works out, so that staff can come up with conditions that tie it to some type of stepping. And you guys had a great idea of possible businesses on the bottom, and I could almost see like the housing along the highway would make sense what it is, and then maybe the units on the other side are some type of transition to slowly step it in. But I think we need to develop that plan a little bit further so we can put conditions on it rather than just 100% mixed use.
And let me make one last argument. As a commercial space, I think there are still a lot of opportunities, a lot of things that could still be built here. It is steep. There are things you could be done. For example, an assisted living. You could have an assisted living there. You could have hotels. You could have any number of, it may not be a target, but there's a lot of other commercial uses that could go there.
And I totally agree with you, but I honestly believe when we say commercial, we mean targets. And that's where I'm actually comfortable with going with a mixed use, so you could entice that rather than fight for it all, and you're not getting the commercial that you, in everyone's head, were thinking.
But we are gonna need some of those other commercial uses though.
But no one says you can't put those in mixed use, correct?
Can't do the other uses?
Yeah, you could
still have commercial and
still
mixed
have
use.
the type of commercial you're talking about in a mixed use.
We could,
Yeah, but you'll have less.
but we'd have less land to do it with because it's been turned into houses.
I think that's the biggest thing for me. If we're just ignoring the site plan, are we changing the zoning of this site because they say it's easier to do residential? Or are we changing it because we prefer mixed use over commercial?
I prefer the latter, what you just said. Mixed use over
Mixed
commercial.
use over commercial.
Myself.
I would prefer mixed use over institutional or something else that comes in and it's not used for any commercial.
Well, institutional, it can go in whatever one, it doesn't matter, but
But my point is
But
that
yeah.
if you can help develop this for mixed use better than commercial,
And the part I like about mixed use, and this is why, and Michael said it, it requires a certain percentage of commercial done first.
yeah, of
And
course.
historically, we do the exact opposite. We get the commercial last. And so that's where I'm trying to say, for me, that makes sense. And then we actually kind of know, to Jackson's point, what we're actually getting, rather than just this big hunk of commercial that doesn't really turn into the commercial we're all thinking.
Sure.
Well, based on the criteria of not digesting this as a true concept plan and just looking at it as a rezone, the only reason I would rezone this would be if commercial truly isn't viable on a piece of ground like this with the contours and such. What I'm hearing from my architect friends is, yeah, you can do that. You could still make commercial out of it. Maybe it's not an easy task to do, but it's still doable. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry if I can speak. I would agree. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying commercial can't work on here. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we all want the commercial to succeed. So if a commercial user comes in here and dumps all of their money into site improvements, that's a huge burden for them to be able to make their business work. So that's all I would add to that. And if tabling the item tonight is the desire of the commission, and we come back with a plan that's true mixed use that would work, I have no problem with that. But I don't want to put words into your mouth.
Sure, but again, Brandon, what I'm hearing is you and your company have already digested this, and you need that residential component to economically make this site work.
For Edge Homes portion of the contract, yes, we do. But that's not to say, I mean, the point of a contract too is we lock it under, we go through this process. If something doesn't work or things change, we can always go back and have some discussions on it. We haven't closed on the land.
And from our side of the table, from this side of the wall, we're just saying, okay, what is ultimately best for the city? But, you know, it does feel like we have just a ton of this apartments, condos, and things like that in that general area. So again, unless this ground is not viable for commercial, and we're only talking zoning at this point, I'd leave it as commercial. If it's not viable, then I'd go mixed use.
And I think that, I can't speak for the city council, but we've spent a lot of time on picking areas to be commercial or to remain commercial. So.
Well, I think we've talked about it enough. I think we're gonna have to vote one way or the other, to be honest. So,
Well, we're only on item 5.1 as well.
yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. They're tied to the same, but I personally would rather see what it could be. I'm not committing to anything in my mind when I say that. It would be a lot less residential, which is why I'm gonna make the motion to continue this item without date.
I'll second that.
Motion by Adam, a second by Andy. Andy?
Yes.
Daryl?
No.
Adam?
Yes?
Jackson?
No.
And Forrest?
No.
Okay, so we have 3 no's,
Denied.
so it's denied. So what do we,
Now you have to do another vote. So
Other
now we
motion.
need to hear the other option.
Now we need to have the other.
okay, does
vote.
someone else want to make a motion?
So I'll make a motion to deny the request.
Recommend denial.
Or recommend.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Forrest, a second by Jackson. Andy?
No.
Daryl?
Yes.
Adam?
No.
Jackson?
Yes.
And Forrest?
Yes.
So are we at a block again?
Need to look and see what we do with the tie. We
Do
haven't
I
done this in a
vote?
Doesn't,
while.
doesn't,
not a tie.
Isn't that one, it's not a tie.
There's not a tie.
3-2.
3-2.
I missed that.
Okay.
Recommend for denial. 3-2.
Unless it needs a fourth. Does it need a fourth?
Nope.
Okay.
Sorry, I apologize.
Okay, so that item will move forward to the city council with a recommendation for denial.
Thank you for the
Okay,
discussion.
thank you. All right, item 5.2, review and consider a recommendation to the city council to amend the Harriman City official zoning map from C2 to MU2.
I'll make a motion to recommend denial.
Well, hold on, we gotta have a hearing.
Public,
That public.
sorry. Thank you. All right, so we will go ahead and open that public hearing. And seeing none, do we have a motion to close?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Yes, thank you.
I'll second.
A motion by Andy, a second by Jackson, all in favor?
Aye?
Okay.
Okay, and then do we have a discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend denial of 5.2.
I'll second.
Motion by Forrest, a second by Jackson. Forrest?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Adam?
No.
Daryl?
Yes.
And Andy?
No.
All right, so that's 3-2, that recommend denial to the city council. All right, chair and commission comments?
This is a tough one.
It is.
It really is. And I can see where you're coming from, Adam.
Oh, I'm not offended. I get it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I really just, and this is, I hope we can share this to council. I know you can make anything work with money. I get it. I work for the federal government. I totally get it. But that doesn't mean it's in the timeline that the city needs it in. And that is why I really think the council needs to really consider focusing on true commercial where they really want it and putting other types of uses where it makes sense. Corners like this, small pieces of property that make it tough. And this isn't that small, but we're struggling with our flat commercial that has been there for 25 years. That's why I'm voting for this, is we really need to change our approach. And again, it's nothing to what you guys said, yes or no. I really think the commercial as a overall needs to be, where are we really gonna win? And if we're gonna win, let's invest there. If we're not, there's no reason to call it what we don't wanna call it, and let's get a better type of use.
The only hang-up on commercial that I see here is the frontage along Mountain View Academy and 150 South. I think you can do commercial.
I personally struggle because look at how long it's taken Lee's to do. Some of it is traffic flow, and so that's why I am, is there is the ease to get there. And you have to have, you guys know that more than anybody. You have to have that, and we still struggle with, like, again, we struggle with that with, where we have plenty of ease to get commercial.
Right. And I think that's a valid point, and I agree with you that we needed to make sure that the commercial's there and that it's this, especially this neighborhood is right outside of, you know, a huge development that's coming across the street. And so I can see the traffic increasing exponentially, obviously, once that connection is made. And then that's gonna be a big pull for that commercial, and they're gonna do what they need to do. If it makes financial sense to make that commercial, they're gonna grade it. They're going to put retaining walls. They're gonna put multi-levels, whatever it is. So if they had come to us with a vertical mixed-use plan and not a horizontal one, I would have been more likely to, okay, well, I can see this working, but I can't just change it in the hopes that they'll come up with something, you know,
Totally agree.
and so.
And that's why when you,
But it would have been
when
fun
you,
to see what they come up with.
and when you see what you just said, that's where I think we need to be more careful on, maybe we should have put the commercial on the other side of the highway, because I would argue that big development's not gonna cross a highway, go down a hill into a ravine to go. They're gonna go where it's convenient to them due to their commute.
It's true.
And that is where I feel like in Harriman, some of the areas we've called commercial
Right.
are just difficult to develop corners. And that's where we need to be careful, especially when this becomes an overpass or whatever it is. And it even adds to that drama of making it not a viable commercial, and it never goes.
Well, and there will be commercial across the street from this, across Mountain View corridor.
Yeah.
There's a small mixed-use commercial section, correct, in that South Hills.
And there'll be
There is a
cross-traffic going
commercial
from the
area,
west side
yes.
to the east side.
Right.
Yeah, there will be a bridge there on Academy Parkway
Yeah.
over Mountain View. So,
But you're right.
Oh, it'll be
I think
interesting
it's
to see.
important to make sure that we get quality commercial
Yep.
and don't just let it all become churches and,
Well, and that's what I worry is right now, they could do just that. They could turn the green into commercial,
right.
and the red would turn into a church. An institution. And I don't think we do need churches as well. We need those type of communities, but we're lying to ourselves if we're calling it true commercial. And that's where we need to be a little more clear on what we mean by commercial. Because I know what the council has said, that's tax-based commercial.
You would have been served better if you just didn't show this, just gave us a topo map, boundary and topo.
I don't think so, because I still don't think we would be comfortable
Right.
without it. And that is why the action that I proposed.
What the mixed use
it would have been
is.
nice to see if he could have come up with something better. But maybe the city
Didn't
council
Edge
will allow
say
that to
He hasn't
happen.
even bought the property yet, so
No, it's just, yeah, there's an agreement there
they can
based
back
on.
out and it can
He can
stay
back out,
commercial.
but yeah, it'd be nice to.
But it, again, if he backs out, it doesn't become commercial.
Yeah.
It just sits. So
just
it just gotta be clear.
Well, he hasn't bought the land yet, so.
Correct.
It may not even sit. The next developer may come in and say, yeah, we'll do commercial on it.
You never know. We'll see.
Yeah. True.
Good discussion.
Okay, thank you. All right, next city council meeting, April 8th, the next planning commission meeting, April 15th. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Andy, and was that Forrest?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I will say,
Arm wrestling over
Adam,
both and whoop me.
your comment about how